Welcome back home. I'm your host, Josh Bowen, and I am joined today by the Pat Cook, who is the founder of the Church of Second Chances. It is an honor to have you here today,
Thank
Pat.
you, Josh. I'm glad to be here.
So, folks out there that don't know Pat, I know Pat through an organization called BNI, Business Networking International. We get to see each other every Wednesday.
Yeah.
Pat runs the Church of Second Chances, which is a nonprofit. Pat, what is the Church of Second Chances, and why is it called that?
Okay, thank you for asking. The Church of Second Chances started for at-risk kids who were post-incarcerated from the Lucas County Juvenile Detention Center. I've been volunteering there for over 25 years on Saturday mornings, helping a team lead a Bible study. And we get to know the kids, develop trust, develop friendships and everything. And then they leave, and we don't see them again until maybe they make another bad decision and they wind up incarcerated again. So it's called the Church of Second Chances because we believe every person, every child deserves a second chance. It's what the Bible tells us. You know, Jesus has given me second and third and fourth and fifth and countless chances. And these kids are no different. They deserve that second chance. So that's why we named it the Church of Second Chances.
What inspired you to get this started? I mean, go back to the beginning,
Okay.
and so where does this start for you?
It started over 25 years ago with my involvement with the Juvenile Detention Center, going down there, ministering to the kids, getting to know them, developing trust, and that kind of thing. And then about probably close to 20 years ago now, I was sitting at Calvary Church, 8:25 on a Sunday morning. I was reading my paper bulletin. This is how long ago this was. And a voice clearly spoke to me and said, "You are to open an aftercare facility." My head shot up. I looked around. There was nobody around me. There was nobody within earshot. And I'm thinking, what is going on here? Just seconds later, the same voice said, "and a church to go along with it." Those were the exact words. I'll never forget them. So again, I'm looking around, and there is nobody sitting around me that could be talking to me. I knew at that point I had heard from God. And I knew immediately the aftercare facility meant when the kids get out of juvenile detention, they have a place to come. That would be the Church of Second Chances. So it all started really with my ministry down at the Juvenile Detention Center. And then God took it from there.
But you weren't always a minister. You weren't always in ministry.
Oh, heavens no.
Where did you come from?
Well, I am a native-born Toledoan. Lived here all my life. But what happened? Yeah, I've had a lot of different careers too, Josh, including real estate, a couple of years in real estate, as you and I talked about today. So what happened was I worked for Toledo Public Schools for 25 years. I was a secretary for 23 years, an administrator the last 2, and then retired. And during this time is when I got that word from the Lord. So I just knew it was going to happen right away. I just knew, God, you've called me to do this. Every door is going to open. The church is going to start. But that is not how God's plan worked. So I retired in 2010 and started the church just last May. So for 14 years, I was kind of on hold. I did take a class at the Toledo Community Foundation, which was amazing, about executive leadership, which really helped me. But what helped me the most was when I started volunteering at Vision Church down at South and Broadway. I was attending Calvary, like I said. I started serving meals down at Vision. And over a couple of years, I served on their board, and then God finally said, it's time to put your money where your mouth is. So he moved me from Calvary to Vision. That was the last thing I ever thought was going to happen. I loved my Calvary church. I just knew that was my forever church. But God had other plans for me. One of those plans being, I had to move to Vision to understand poverty. I knew this much about poverty when I started at Vision, and now I know this much. I have never lived in poverty, but now I know people who do. I know people who are homeless. I see some of the issues that they go through. So God had that plan for me, but he had to get me ready for the Church of Second Chances.
So Vision, that's like an inner city church, right?
We're at South and Broadway. Yep, the historic old South End.
And
Yeah.
so Vision has a number of services. You've got free hot meals.
Mhm.
You have, after school activities. What all does Vision have that I'm forgetting?
Yeah, oh,
'Cause I'm
that's
probably
okay.
forgetting stuff.
Yeah, that's okay. Of course, our main ministry is our Sunday morning services. We
Sure.
meet at 10:30 on Sunday mornings. We have a big, big, big kids and youth ministry there too. And then Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights at 5:30, we serve a hot meal to the community. Everybody is welcome. There's always enough food. Once a month, we have a giveaway, and that is usually the third Saturday of the month. Many people give us donations throughout the month, mostly clothing, and we feel it's our obligation to then in turn give that to people who need it. I have a number of my friends and family who give me donations on a regular basis, and people depend on it.
So, what does an inner city church mean?
In inner city church, we serve a very poverty stricken area of Toledo. There's a high crime rate there. There's huge drug abuse there, alcoholism. Many people have never graduated from high school. But I don't want to make it sound like it's all that way.
Sure.
It isn't. There's a lot of people like that. But we also have some solid families, who live there. Maybe they just don't have all the benefits that you and I enjoy in life. They're good, loving parents. They're sometimes they work one or two jobs, but they just don't have the lifestyle
Sure.
that you and I have.
Working at Vision, being there, running some programs, helping folks, and all of your background in ministry at the jail.
Mhm.
And then you decided to start another church and,
Yeah.
and move forward because that was your calling.
Right?
Who do you serve?
We serve predominantly young men. Everybody has been in or is currently in the juvenile justice system. They're not incarcerated because when they're incarcerated, they have to stay at the detention center. So this is after they get out, they're on probation, whatever. So it's predominantly young men between the ages of 13 and 18. We did have one young lady join us yesterday, which is fine. And if we get more young ladies, I will probably separate it into two groups so that we have boys and girls separate. We would not exclude anyone. Absolutely not.
What are you seeing in these kids that you're helping? What is the backgrounds that they're coming from? What does that look like?
Yeah. Let me describe. I'm gonna pick a couple individuals
Sure.
and tell you about them. We have a young man named Dennis. He's from South Carolina. He came up to Toledo under some very nefarious, illegal circumstances, got caught, got put in the juvenile detention center here, and he is now in a facility in Bainbridge, Ohio. Well, Dennis remembered me talking about the Church of Second Chances, and so he found us on the internet, got a hold of me, and so now we're back in contact. Dennis's background: mom just got out of prison a few months ago. Dad is on probation. I don't know if he was in prison or not, or if he had an offense that he's on probation. And stepdad died of a fentanyl overdose.
Mm.
That is what our kids are dealing with. This is their reality. So I am so proud of Dennis. And you mentioned BNI, Josh. One of our BNI members in my chapter, Shane Miller, is mentoring Dennis. He's never met him in person, but he's already mentoring him over the phone for an HVAC career. Shane owns his own HVAC company. Dennis is very interested in that. So that's one of the things we're trying to do for these kids is let them, here's a glimpse of your future. This is
Sure.
what it could be like. So
Small light on the other end of the tunnel for when you transition past this part
Yeah.
of your life. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We had another young man who was found asleep one morning on one of my volunteers' front porch.
Oh boy.
I mean, he's basically a homeless teenager. He's 16 years old. He'd gone throughout the neighborhood. Everybody knew him, but he still doesn't have a home life. Unfortunately, he is reincarcerated right now and will be for quite some time. So, but this is the stuff these kids deal with. Oftentimes, dad is in prison. Dad is usually not in the home to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
But even if they know they have a relationship with dad, he's oftentimes in prison, or your uncle is in prison. Maybe you have an older brother. Sometimes mom is in prison. There's a lot of drug abuse going on. There's alcoholism. Like I said, poverty.
Wow.
What these kids deal with is something that I still don't totally understand. I probably never will.
So what is your program focus on providing them? I mean, they're coming from an environment that is not great.
Right.
I mean, at a very
Right.
small level, not great
Right.
is it's much more than not great.
Mhm.
Then they're coming to you. How are you changing lives?
We are changing lives starting with the Bible. I'm going to put it like that. My life, what I call my life verse, is Jeremiah 29:11, and it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." So that is my life verse, and I try to extend that to the kids. God has plans for you. Those plans do not include dealing drugs, fighting, the guns that we see in Toledo now.
Mm.
Those are not the plans that God has for you. He has so much more for you. So we're trying, like I mentioned, Shane, with our mentoring program. This is what you could have. You're going to have to work for it, but there are great benefits to having a good career, a solid life. Things don't have to stay the way they are right now.
What are some of the priorities that you see from these kids that are going through this? What's their headspace look like when you start mentoring them?
They're very receptive to it. Very receptive. Ernie Lewis, who's in our BNI chapter as well, took 2 kids to Culver's last Sunday. It was his first time mentoring them. And I got feedback from both sides. They both had a very good experience with it. The kids think Ernie's very cool. But anyway, and Ernie is very cool. So he took them to Culver's, a little thing like that normally they just wouldn't go there. But Ernie wants to invest in their lives just to help them out. Neither one of them has dad in the home. Both of them have mom in the home. So that was very positive. So we're trying to help them out like in that way. With our Bible studies, we always present, here's what the Bible says about life. Now, what are your choices versus how God's telling you to live? How are things working out for you, living this other lifestyle? And usually they're not working out very well. The current Bible study we're doing right now is called The 5 Instincts of a Man. And I do not participate in that because I'm not a man. I never will be a man. So I exit the room. And I have our male volunteers lead that. The feedback I'm getting from these kids is they love it. They love this Bible study.
Mm-hmm.
One kid who just turned 18 told me he's kind of at a difficult space in his life right now. And he said, I needed this right now.
Mm.
And for an 18-year-old to admit that said something to me. We are making changes.
Yeah.
And this girl, like I said, we had one young lady come yesterday for the very first time. And she needs a mom. She needs a lot of help. She's a lovely, lovely young girl. We started talking about how we need to live in community. And we were talking about in the book of Romans, it says, mourn with those who mourn, rejoice with those who rejoice. And so that tells me we're not meant to live this life alone. How can we mourn with somebody if we don't know somebody? How can we rejoice with them if we don't know them? So we're meant to live in community. And I started talking about that, and it deeply impacted her. And we were alone in my car last night. She was my last drop-off. And we started talking about that. And she said, that really made sense to me, what you were talking about, is that we are meant to live together. We're not meant to be isolated.
Wow.
So things like that. These kids are smart. They are smart kids.
Simple
and they've got
but
insight.
profound.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
She's 14 years old. I told her, you have more maturity than most adults I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
So why this? Why now? Why is now the time?
Yeah. Basically because God told me. That's it in a nutshell. Like I said, he started this process with me years ago. It's just now the right time. Do I know why this God's timing is right now? No, I really don't. But I used to joke because, as we know in the Bible, it says how Sarah had her baby at 90 years old. And I used to joke and say, I am not going to birth this baby, meaning the church, at 90 years old. Instead, he waited till I was 70. So yes, I was 70 years old when I started this church. But these kids have just become part of my heart. They are my life. They trust me, but that's taken a while to develop that.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. And I'm real with them because these kids can see through you in a heartbeat. If you're trying to scam them or give them false information or something, they will call you out on it. I mean, they are smart. But we have developed friendships and trust, and a lot of them call me Granny now, which is the biggest. That's the biggest blessing right now.
you've got this program. You're doing it after school.
Mhm.
You're out there. I called you last night. You're transporting kids around in your car. That's something that I think is of importance. You're actively looking for a van, and
Yeah.
you were praying about it. You had an opportunity come to you.
Yes, it was so amazing. My friend, Pastor Keith, pastors Holland Free United Methodist, did I say that right? On Angola Road. He has a 12-passenger van that he and his wife have been using because they have a family of 6 kids. But he said, Pat, my kids have grown older. This van takes up so much space in my driveway and is really not fuel efficient. So he said, I know you're looking for a van. I said, would you be interested? So we're in the process of talking about a price right now, see what would be fair. That's exactly what I need. I mean, I've got a big car.
Nice.
I have a Ford Explorer, but we
Yeah.
were packed in there like, I don't know what yesterday, moving kids around. So, so this van opportunity has come up, and I really believe it's an answer to prayer.
What do you see? I mean, you're just almost a year into this,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
I mean, approaching a year.
Right.
How much have you grown in that period of time, and what do you see in the next year and the next 5 years? What is the vision for the Church of Second Chances?
Thank you for asking that. Here's how we've grown. The first 3 weeks, we had 0 kids show up. I advertised it through the Lucas County, the Juvenile Probation Department. I went and talked to all of them. They gave me an audience with about 40 people. It was awesome. I got to talk about the program. But we started with 0 kids. Now we're up to about 7 or 8 that come, which is great because it really facilitates conversation and learning and that kind of thing. I would love to grow it. I would love to have 20 or 25 kids come. But in order to do that, we're going to need our own space too. The space we have right now, Vision is letting us use for free, which is amazing. Free is always good, especially starting a nonprofit. You
Yes.
don't have any money. So I am so thankful for Vision. But as we grow, we're going to outgrow that space. And Vision does not have a big enough space for us to use with more than maybe a dozen kids.
Sure. So what does that space look like for you?
What I would love, and Josh, you and I laugh about this, I want a space with a gymnasium. And
Gotta
those
have a
aren't
gymnasium.
those aren't always easy to find. But some of my kids love to play basketball. And I have referred them to a basketball program on Saturday mornings at the Frederick Douglass Center that my friend Torrance Roberts runs. But I want to have our own space too. I would love a space where we can have some office space. We can have privacy. We can close doors and talk with the kids if they want to have private conversation, or if we need to address an issue with them. I would love to have game space. A friend of mine is holding a pool table for us in her basement. It's just a waiting space. I have a leather sectional sitting at my house right now, taking up a whole lot of space, but I wasn't going to turn it down
Sure.
because that was on my dream too, is to have this sectional. So a hangout space, a small kitchen space where we can provide snacks and maybe eventually even hot meals. I don't know exactly what that'll look like, but a hangout space. But most importantly, a safe hangout space. These kids need protection. One of the things that really blew me away when we first started this back in May, some of the kids in the neighborhood would come, and when they would walk home, they would go between houses. They would literally dodge between houses to walk home. I said, why would you do that? They said, so we don't get shot.
Whoa.
I was like, what? This doesn't even, I can't even connect with this. Because in that neighborhood, shootings are not unusual. We had a young man killed across the street from Vision last month. They're not unusual. But these kids literally were going between houses to get home. It shouldn't be that way.
And this is not something that they just came up with, right? This
heavens,
is something
no.
that they're growing up with, that they're taught, and they're teaching each other.
Absolutely. I had one other kid fill out paper because we have an intake form. I had another kid fill out paperwork, and he listed his name. And then somebody called me a few weeks ago and say, "Hey, did you know that he just got picked up for shooting somebody?" And I said, "Well, it's not my kid." I said, "This is a different name." This is how smart these kids are, Josh. He was homeless. He knew that people would be looking for him. He gave me a false name.
Wow.
I had no idea. These kids are smart. They are so smart.
They're just trying to survive.
They are trying to survive. You know, that pyramid that we talk about where survival's up at the top, that's where these kids are. And education and everything else falls so far down beneath, but survival's right at the top of that pyramid.
Wow.
Yeah.
We got connected through a mutual friend,
Yeah.
Rebecca, who is my graphic designer for my company, and
Yeah.
she made the logo for Welcome Back Home. We had a seat open within our BNI chapter for a nonprofit,
Right.
and I knew that Becca worked with several nonprofits,
Hmm.
and so I reached out to her, and then she connected us.
Yes.
And from our first phone call, I mean, the energy that you have, that I don't even know where you get all your energy from. You came to BNI and, you'd already known some people there,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you were surprised to see them. What do you think from an impact standpoint, right? You came to BNI, you didn't know what BNI was.
I had no clue.
What has that done for you and your mission?
Oh my gosh, I can hardly even begin to tell you about it. First of all, when Rebecca called me, she said, you're welcome to go check it out. You get a free lunch. I'm like, I'm good with a free lunch. So I went. I didn't know Josh. and,
Come for the free lunch.
That's right. Come for the free lunch. Yes, it's really, really amazing. But anyway, so I came for the free lunch, and I had never heard of BNI. I didn't have a clue what it was. But Becca said, she said it's a business organization. You make connections in that. And I thought, well, this would be really good for the Church of Second Chances because we're brand new. I need to connect with people. What has BNI done for me? Oh my goodness. Financially, BNI, my chapter has helped so much, as have other chapters. We had a basket raffle at Christmas time where the members in our chapter put together several baskets, and that raised almost $500 for the Church of Second Chances. Individuals have given me money. And I also put Vision in there because I do attend Vision, and the needs are so great at Vision Church as well. I have asked for canned goods. I asked for turkeys and ham at Christmas time, and our members brought things in. It was just amazing. They've given me clothing donations for our giveaway that we have at Vision. So BNI has done so much. But on top of all that tangible stuff, probably the best thing I've gotten out of BNI is the connections. I was connected, maybe 6 months ago now, with no longer than that, with Ebony Robinson. She is the founder of Greater Generations in Toledo. She works with the same demographics of kids that I do, with at-risk kids, but they do a lot of community work. They do like park cleanup. They have a snow plowing contract with the city of Toledo. They don't have the spiritual aspect that we bring, but we don't have the work experience that they bring. So Ebony and I have connected, and I consider us very good friends now. And we are combining forces. We are collaborating with our nonprofits, not only for the kids to work together, but with grant opportunities. We are co-writing grants. We are going to have a family picnic this summer with both of our
that's great.
organizations. Yeah, at a City of Toledo park. So we are definitely working together. A friend of mine, Torrance Roberts, runs a basketball program on Saturday mornings at the Frederick Douglass Center. He's a former detention officer at Juvie, which is where I first met him. He's an awesome man, and he teaches life and basketball. So, like I said before, I am not a man. I never will be, but Torrance is, and he can help these kids in ways that I can't with teaching those life skills. So I do send some of our kids over there if they're interested in basketball, and he will in turn send kids to us if he thinks that would be a good fit. Yeah, so we are definitely trying to work with different community organizations as well.
Yeah. Well, it's those partnerships and those connections that expand your reach and your mission and provide complementary services.
Absolutely.
You have a very nurturing program.
Thank you.
And obviously its foundation is on faith.
Yes.
And then Ebony has a service-based program that's
Right.
also nurturing,
Yeah.
right? And
Exactly.
those complement each other very well.
Yes.
So I'm really glad that you're making these connections.
Oh, I am too. Oh my goodness.
So what is your joy? What brings you joy outside of this, or maybe it's just this? What is your joy for Pat Cook?
I have many joys.
Oh, good.
I have many. The Bible says, first of all, the joy of the Lord is our strength. So the Lord is definitely my joy. These kids bring me such joy. As we talked about when I was driving home last night and you called me and I had a carload of kids, I was smiling the whole way because I was just listening to them talk, and they were just doing teenage talk, you know?
Yeah.
But it was such a pleasure to just be able to be a part of their lives. So that brings me great joy. My family brings me tremendous joy. My husband and I have been married 51 years. And yes, I was 10, he was 11 when we got married. I just want to specify that, so my marriage brings me a great amount of joy. My kids, I have 3 kids and 2 in-law kids, but they're all my kids. They're all in their 40s now, and 6 grandkids. And my kids all know how I feel. The grandkids are definitely a step above them right now. And for anybody, if you're not a grandparent yet, you'll understand this. But my kids all know they're way down here somewhere. The grandkids are up here, just under God, So anyway, faith brings me a great deal of joy. Serving people, that brings me a great deal of joy.
Yeah.
I was telling somebody last night, I was helping with our meal down at Vision, and I said, I didn't like serving at Vision at first. And somebody said, well, why not? I said, I think it was out of my comfort zone. I wasn't used to being around people in poverty and people who are homeless and people who don't have all the blessings in life maybe that I do, that you do, Josh. But now I look forward to those times. I sit at the tables and I connect with my friends down there at Vision. Someone gifted me with picture frames that he had made a few weeks ago. So we're making those connections too. But I get great joy out of just serving and just being with people. I love it.
So you've been married for 51 years. You've been doing all of this stuff for over 25 years. Wow, your husband must be awesome.
He is amazing. He is amazing.
What's his involvement in all of this?
His involvement is he's my behind-the-scenes biggest cheerleader. He gets involved a little bit. Well, he's been involved with Vision. He'll help me do pickups like for giveaway if we have, we used to pick up furniture. We're both too old to do it now. But if there's clothing that needs to be picked up or something, he'll do that. As far as the Church of Second Chances, he is the behind the scenes, my greatest cheerleader, like I said. He's not actively involved in the ministry, but I can lean on him.
Yeah.
When I heard this girl's story last night, I just went to him and I said, is it any wonder these kids are messed up? And I'm not going to go into detail on her story, but just know that it's beyond, it's just beyond anything you and I have ever experienced. And I could bounce that off of him. And he'll listen and he'll be compassionate. And just because he's not involved in the ministry doesn't mean he doesn't care about it or isn't supportive, because he certainly is.
You're working with kids that are in terrible situations. Mm-hmm. You're dealing with them and their stories and all of their baggage that they're bringing with them. And then you have to provide them a different option.
Right.
Right? You are there providing a different option, but you have to take it all in first.
True.
I mean, you're basically living that as they're telling their stories, and you've got to take that all in order to figure out how to help them and empathize with them.
Yeah.
I mean that takes some fortitude.
It takes some processing on my part too, I'll tell you that. When I had some time to talk alone with this young lady yesterday, and I heard part of her story, I said, have you had counseling? Because it was apparent that her situation is far more than what I am trained to do, and she blessedly said, yes, she had an appointment coming up. So you have to be able to discern. And what I also tell the kids is what you say to me is going to stay confidential.
What's that? Trust and respect.
It's the trust and respect. Absolutely. It is definitely. And that goes both ways. Mm-hmm. It goes both ways. But I said, what you say to me isn't going to be spread on Facebook or the internet or whatever. It's not. There's 2 things that I would have to report because I'm mandated to do it. I said, if you're going to hurt yourself or you're going to hurt somebody else, I said, I have to report that. But if you want to talk to me about family matters and that sort of girlfriend issues, whatever, I'm here for you. I said, it's not going to be spread around. And they believe that now. And that's true. I won't lie to them.
Yeah. I think it's really important, the foundation that you're setting is a model for the foundation that they should expect going out into the world, right? Unfortunately, the world's kind of failed them.
It has. It has.
And you're there trying to help pick up the pieces.
Yeah. A lot of the kids drop out of school. Many of them, nobody in their family has graduated from high school. And like I said, I worked for TPS for 25 years, so education is really, it's inbred in me, the importance of education. It really saddens me, but I also get it. When survival is at the top of your pyramid, and education is somewhere down here, and clothing is down here, and shelter and everything, they're out there to survive. So we're trying to show them a different way. Let me give you one example that's coming up next week. I'm so excited about this. Every month we try to give them an incentive/reward for coming to the Church of Second Chances and doing Bible study. So next Thursday, Toby Mack is coming to Toledo at the Huntington Center. Through the very generous donations of people and churches, we were able to purchase 15 tickets. So we're taking the kids to the Toby Mack concert. These kids have never been to a Christian concert before in their lives.
Outstanding.
Yeah, they've never been to a Christian concert. They probably don't even know what it's going to be like. But they're really excited to go, and they're wanting to bring their friends. Well, I'm limited to 15 tickets, So we're taking them to that. We're trying to show them different experiences. We took them to Red Lobster for Christmas, for a very special Christmas event, and then went out to Sylvania to Five Lakes Church, brand new church out on Mitchell Road. Show them there is life outside of where you're at right now. Is it just going to be handed to you? Probably not. You're going to have to work for it. But we're going to help you get there. And the young man I mentioned, Dennis, we've got him hooked up with Shane in this heating and air conditioning mentorship. When Dennis gets back here, he wants to work with Shane because I've told him there will always be a need for your services. Some things go by the way of electronics anymore, robotics, whatever. Heating and air, I said, you're always going to have a job. So, we try to talk to them like that about encouraging them for the future, too.
You've been doing this a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you decide, well, you didn't decide. You were kind of told that you were going to open up this church.
Oh, I was definitely told.
And now you have, sort of this traction that is going on. What does that mean to you? What does that mean to Pat Cook that this is being so well received and it's growing?
It is truly an answer to prayer because, and being blatantly honest, when God first spoke to me, I'm like, you have got to be kidding. That's exactly what I said. I said, I am married. I've got 3 kids. I'm working full time. You have got to be kidding me.
You could easily be retired.
Oh, I am. Yeah, I've been retired for 14 years from my secular job. So I'm like, why, God, why are you waiting till I'm almost retired to bring all this about? And then especially, why did you wait till I was 70 years old to start this church? But again, it's all in his timing. God's timing is perfect. I've got the time to do this now. I have the passion to help these kids. A silly thing I don't think I've ever told you. When I go downtown on Saturday mornings, the first thing I make the boys do is give me a firm handshake. And if they give me, I call it the wet fish. If they give me one of those limp handshakes, I make them redo it. So anyway, but I go down there. And it's a simple thing like teaching young men a handshake. Because when you go for a job interview, that thing where you kind of go up the arm or something like that, sometimes they do a handshake like that. That's not going to cut it.
Yeah.
You must give a firm handshake. So simple things like that. I want them to know how to change a tire on a car. I want them to know how to tie a tie. I realize a lot of men don't wear ties anymore, but there will be occasions when you will. I want them to know these simple things as well as the Bible and their spiritual walk. Yeah.
Yeah, those fundamentals are really important.
Absolutely.
And especially like when you have that knowledge, even like as simple as it is to tie a tie.
Yeah.
Teaching those fundamentals and just giving an environment where those are available, where the current environment, they're not available at all. You have this mentorship program that you're starting. And you've talked about a couple mentors that have come on board through the BNI group. What does that look like for you long term? And how do you hope that the mentorship program can help with your with the church?
Absolutely. What it looks like right now is we're small. We only have 2 or 3, I think, mentors right now. I tell my mentors, I don't have guidelines for you. There's only one thing I really want is that at least once a month you meet face-to-face with the kids. What you want to do, that's between you and them, because they have to go through an interview process. We don't just take anybody to be a mentor. Whenever you're working with kids, You have to be careful, especially with these kids. They've been hurt so much in the past. You have to be careful who you select as mentors. So we have an interview process. But I tell the mentors, it's between you and the kids. Like Ernie Lewis took the kids to Culver's the other day. They loved it. And Ernie enjoyed his time with these two boys, and they both told me how cool Ernie is. So just things like that. Maybe if they're sports inclined, maybe you'll go to a Mud Hens game or a Walleye game. Things that the kids don't normally do. If you're interested in the arts, maybe you like jazz. Maybe you like paintings. Go to the art museum. Show them things that they don't normally do. That's how I look at our mentoring. But they also have to be solid individuals.
Sure.
We won't take just anybody. I'm going to be honest.
That's important.
Yeah.
Not only the standard of care, right? You're placing trust in these people that they're going to care for these kids.
Right.
But just the standard of education, discussion, experience.
Right.
You have to also understand that you're going into this situation where the child that you're dealing with has seen some horrific things.
That's right. Many have.
And you have to have the ability to process and navigate that just as you are, because if you don't have that fortitude to go through that, it's probably not going to be a good fit.
Yeah, that's right. My 3 kids have helped a lot. Like I said, I've raised 3 teenagers. They blessedly did not face the things that these kids do. When you've raised teenagers, you've had some experience,
Sure.
with things. I can talk to these kids the way I used to talk to my own teenagers. And I do. First of all, I love to nurture them. I love to give them hugs. I let them know they are cared about. I let them know that they are worthy and that they deserve a second chance. All things that I would have talked to my own kids about and did talk to my own kids about, I do with these kids. I always said I wanted more grandkids. I have 6. I never thought I was going to get them as teenagers. Half of them call me Granny now. But I never thought I was going to have more grandchildren come by virtue of, of my kids. But they are truly, I love these kids. They are my kids.
If there's folks out there that are listening or watching and they want to get involved, what are you looking for specifically? Part of it's mentorship. You also need funding.
We do need funding. Okay, let's start with the financials.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to talk about.
It is, but it's necessary.
It's necessary. Let me say this too. Churches are also businesses. None of us are being paid right now. We have a completely volunteer staff. I would love to be able to pay some of our volunteers for their time.
Yeah.
They're investing of themselves as well. None of them have asked for money. I would love to be able to bless them that way. But aside from that, right now, like I said, Vision Church is free. We're getting the space for free. But when we get our own space, and I know you're looking for that for us, Josh, we're going to have to pay utilities. We're going to have to pay rent.
Internet,
insurance. There's just a whole plethora of things that we're going to have to pay for. And starting up as a nonprofit, you don't have a lot of money. Now, this is an Assemblies of God church. The Assemblies has been so generous with us in giving us money last year and again this year. But the funding will stop at the end of this year through the Assemblies. And that's fine because there's a lot of churches they need to support. They've given us some great startup money. But financially, we can always use help.
What is the website?
Oh, Second Chances Toledo.
Second Chances Toledo.
Yes, and Facebook and website. Yep.
Beautiful.
Yep. The other thing that we're right now is looking at the van, and I think we discussed that.
Yeah.
But
that costs
that's
money
not
too.
free either.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's not a donation.
Exactly. Yeah. I can't keep hauling the kids around it. Even though I have a big Ford Explorer, we're maxed out. If I get one more kid, we don't have room.
Yeah, you're not doing that well.
No. Things like that. Those are things we need. The space, as we grow, we are going to outgrow Vision. There's no question about it. But again, it comes down to finances too. You've got to have the money to be able to do it. Mentors, absolutely. As we are growing and we're getting more kids, like right now, I'm short 1 or 2 mentors. I have two prospects that I need to call yet and interview.
Sure.
But I don't know if they're going to make the cut. To be honest with you, we are, like I said, we're very selective on who we pick. Mentors and as we grow too with females, I'm going to start needing some female mentors. Just hang out with these young girls for a while. Take them to lunch. Take them to a nicer place.
Yeah, something
lunch.
other than what they see normally.
Exactly. Show them that there's more to life.
And that's really important. You're providing experiences, you're providing a foundation, you're providing an alternative. And that alternative someone that's living in poverty, someone that doesn't know where their next meal is coming from, someone that has no transportation, someone that might not even have hot water at
Right.
home
That's true.
to take a shower,
That's true.
right? And you're showing them a different way of life, and sometimes that's not believable at first. They don't believe that they can get there.
Right.
So it's not just showing them something, you're having to fill them up and give them confidence that they can move a different direction.
Yes. Yes. And a lot of it starts with education. I push education. When I say my team, but the team pushes education. If you really want to make a go of it, you have got to get your high school diploma or a GED. It's necessary. Can you get jobs without it? Sure. Is the likelihood of you moving up and getting out of the neighborhood and bettering your life without that high school education or GED pretty slim?
Yeah.
Can it be done? Sure, but pretty slim.
Pat, where do you think you're going as a whole? You've got this building, you've got other partnerships. What do you hope from a community impact? What do you hope that this does?
Thanks for asking. Let me tell you the 3 reasons we started this, because that answers your question as well. The first reason we started this is to help the kids continue their walk with the Lord that we started down at the Juvenile Detention Center. Or kids who come in, we have kids who've never seen a Bible and they don't know anything about religion, so to speak. I say I'm spiritual, I'm not religious, okay? But just for general terms.
Sure.
So it's to help them in their walk with the Lord. The second reason is to help them to stay out of the juvenile detention center again. They have got some of the most dedicated people working down there I have ever seen. But kids, they need to be out. I mean, and don't get me wrong, if you've done something and you deserve to be incarcerated, I'm okay with that. There are consequences for our actions. But the third reason is to help reduce the rate of juvenile crime in Toledo. When I was growing up, when you were growing up, Josh, it wasn't like it is today. You turn on the nightly news, and what do you hear about? Teenagers shooting each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, we had a kid killed across the street from Vision Church last month. It's not unusual to hear about this stuff. When gunshots go off in South Toledo around my church, around Vision Church, people aren't even surprised. It's like,
Yeah, they're just numb to it.
They are numb to it. They are numb to it. One of my volunteers, and she is an amazing woman, had her house shot up 2 summers ago. She lives in the neighborhood. I mean, things that I can't even hardly process. That's not in my realm of thinking, but it's reality there.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to help these kids realize there is more to life than what they've got right now. You can get out of this. It's going to take work on your part. It's not going to be handed to you, but we're here to help you do that. We are trying to give you every resource we can, as well as working with their probation officers and the court system and stuff. There are some amazing probation officers. They email me and text me and wanting to know how their kids are doing and, that sort of thing. They don't have easy jobs, let me tell you that. But it's working together as a team and just trying to help these kids because they absolutely deserve a second chance.
They do.
Thank you.
So if there were a couple things that you have learned throughout your life that you feel that you need to share with the folks that are listening or watching, what would that be?
I'm going to actually start with marriage that has nothing to do with the Church of
Oh, it's
Second Chances.
important, though.
It's very important. Like I said, my husband and I have been married 51 years. I was actually 19, he was 20. Has life been perfect? Nope. Is any marriage perfect? No. But it takes work. It takes communication. It takes work. It takes dedication. And somebody asked my husband and I, the first time we got recognized as being the longest married couple on a dance floor at a wedding, right? They said, "What's your secret?" And I said, "Love." And he said, "Respect." Those are 2 key elements to a marriage. I don't think you can have one without the other. Do I love my husband? Absolutely. Do I respect him? Probably more than anybody I know. He is such a solid man. He spent his career in the military. I don't know how else to put it. He is just solid. I respect him tremendously. He respects me. We have very different activities that we do. We have very different likes. but you make it work. You stick together. You make it work. We have been through the worst of times and the best of times, but we're in it for the long haul. So I guess that would be one thing I've learned in my 71 years is
So
about
that's
marriage.
important.
And
Well, so many people go into relationships, and especially the marriage, you come together, it's 50-50. Well, it's not really 50-50. It's kind of like 100-100.
it is 100,
right?
100.
But you always have to trust that the other person is giving 100.
Yes.
Even maybe if they're not, it's their 100 right now.
Absolutely. You nailed it, Josh.
Marriage, relationships, whatever that is. I mean, look at the work that you're doing. Could you imagine doing it without the support of your husband
Oh, absolutely
for
not.
this long?
Absolutely not. No, there's no way in the world. Because first of all, I'm gone so much. And I mean, we're both retired. Well, of course, I'm unretired. But anyway, we're both retired. You know, you think, okay, we're going to do some traveling. We're going to go out to breakfast. We're going to go to lunch. We're going to have, hang out with our friends, do whatever we want to do. Well, my life has really changed in the past few years now. Sure, I was doing some of that stuff, and I still enjoy doing that. But now I can get phone calls late at night. I can get emails that have to be answered, parents calling, whatever it might be. And my husband is supportive of that. I don't know that he's always happy when the phone might ring at 8 o'clock at night and he'll shoot me a look like, could you please go in the other room and talk? But that's part of respect, because in respect for him, I do that. I'll go into the other room. So to answer your question, yeah, I wanted to talk about marriage. The second thing, and maybe I should have made this the first thing, was my spiritual walk. What have I learned? I thought I was a Christian most of my life. I was raised in a denominational church. It was fine, but I walked away from it. I knew there was something missing. And what I discovered it was when I was 35 years old was a personal relationship with Christ. It's a vertical relationship. He's up here, I'm down here. It's accepting him into your heart and choosing how you want to live. You want to live like Christ. Will I ever attain that? Absolutely not, because I'm a human being, but you still strive. I strive to live a holy life, a righteous life, but I have a lot of fun doing it. God never told us we couldn't have fun. So I guess I've had more fun in the last 36 years than I did my first 35, being a Christian. So my spiritual walk is really, really important to me. I realize how important Christ is in my life, and I have chosen to let him guide me every step of the way, every day. The third thing, and I'll stop with this, but is my kids. It's so important to have an open relationship with your kids, especially when they get to be teenagers. And maybe that's why I love these other kids so much now, my new kids. You have to have that relationship where you can talk. I cannot tell you how many times I could tell one of my kids was really having a bad day, and they don't like to open up to you. They'd go up to their room. I would follow them up. I'd close the door. I'd sit on their bed, and I would just
You
say,
have no choice.
That's right. And yet my words to them were, spill your guts. And then for once in my life, I stopped talking because I love to talk. But I would just sit there. I'd just say, spill your guts. And then I didn't say anything else. And eventually they started talking, and then we started talking. They can remember these times well. So when it comes to your kids, you have got to have that open communication going at all times. Is it
Well,
easy?
and it goes back to exactly what you're doing. It's the safety, it's the trust, it's the respect in order to have that dialogue and be able to go through that process knowing that you're not judging, you're just trying to love them.
Yes.
You're trying to guide out of a place of love.
Right. And now that's what I'm doing with with my kids.
You're
from
just
Second
replicating
Chances.
that with
I
all
am.
of these folks.
I guess I am.
Yeah.
Starting all over with teenagers at 71 years old.
Well, you are making a huge impact.
Thank you. I hope so.
It's starting small. It's growing. You have traction. You are making so many connections. I think there's a lot of people that do want to be involved. I'm really blessed and happy to share your story here.
Thank you. And if there's one thing that people take away from this, I hope it's don't judge these kids right off the bat. If you haven't walked in their shoes, and we've all heard that story, the things that they've experienced, the situations they're coming from, it's no wonder the decisions they make.
Well, and we talked this morning. We're human beings, and we're malleable,
Hmm.
and we go through this adolescent, this childhood age, and it's programming, right?
Yes.
And if we got bad programming going in
Yeah.
because of an environment and things that we're dealing with and that we're seeing, what's the expectation?
Right. Right. You live what
Really?
you know.
And you're giving people a choice,
Yes.
right? It's the choice to take that second chance
Exactly.
and to have something different.
Yeah.
And you have folks that are choosing it.
Absolutely. And just like Jesus never forced himself on people, we will never force ourselves on these kids. It has to be voluntary. Because if they're there and they really don't want to be, or they're just not ready to be yet, they're not going to get anything out of it.
Yeah.
So it's voluntary, and we welcome anybody.
With that, thank you for watching Welcome Back Home and listening to Welcome Back Home. Pat, I'm so happy that you were here today. Thank you
Me
so
too,
much.
Josh. I appreciate you.
And I appreciate you. And with that, welcome back home. And all that we wish for you is to be inspired.